Hi and welcome back to FreeDU Hub. Today we are going to understand GNU PGP, which is for Pretty Good Privacy. It's a complete and free implementation of Open PGP standard, which is defined by RFC 4880. It's also known as Pretty Good Privacy because we are using it whether you know it or not, but in the background whenever we are using any symmetric and asymmetric encryption, this thing is working and it's helping us in encrypting the things. Since we have read a lot about symmetric and asymmetric encryption, so we'll try to understand how can we do it in reality if we are implementing it using our Kali box. Now, as you can see, I have two Kali boxes, virtual machines running, and I am writing sender and receiver over here. So we'll first check that how can we use this thing in order to implement and in order to share the keys between the two partners, and how can you encrypt and decrypt the information. So just to make it simpler, I have two different machines. So instead of sending it over via email to the partner and then they'll be receiving and they'll be sending you their files, I'll show you right away side by side that how can you do it yourself and check the encryption and then the algorithms yourself. So the first thing that we will do is that we'll open the terminal window on both on sender and receiver. So first thing first, we'll have to type in sudo su and try to go to the elevated privileges, and same goes over here. We'll have to be with the admin access. The second thing you must keep an eye on is that it's actually saving the things on your home directory. Now I need to change it to the main root directory so that we will be able to save the files over there and we'll be able to extract it from there. So in order to go to the root directory, I'll type cd root and it would take us to the main root directory, and let's change it on the other operating system as well. And if you want to see that if there is anything saved over there or not, I'll press ls, and I'll press ls over here also, just to make sure that there is nothing else in the root directory where we will be saving our files. Now the other thing is that we might need to go to the root directory of our Kali box. So if I'll be clicking on files, and then if I'll go to the root directory, we'll not be able to access it, since you can see a mark over here that you'll have to provide a username and password over there. Now we can open it like that, but if in case we need to open it with admin privileges every time, there is a small utility that you can install and it would help you out in running these operations, and that would be a tool called Nautilus. Now in order to install Nautilus, I'll say apt install -y and I'll type in Nautilus, and let's do it as admin, and then press enter. It would take some time and it would install it on your computer. Now as you can see that it's installed on both terminals, so let's clear the window from here and let's clear the window on the receiver end as well. Now what's the difference? Why did we install it? If we'll click on application, if we'll go to files, it would go to the file manager, and if I'll try to go to a root folder or any other folder where you need admin privileges, if you'll right click on it, it would show you an option of open as administrator. So that gives us an end that if we need to access certain files, we can provide the password and we can directly go to the root access. And as you can see that there is nothing as far as PGP is concerned. We don't have any files of GNU there. So that's clear. Now we'll have to start the exercise and we'll see that how can we encrypt the files and then decrypt it using asymmetric encryption. Now in order to generate the key, first of all, you'll write GPG and then you'll just give two minus signs, and then you'll type in full and then generate and then key. Now make sure that you're typing in full generate key. There is another command called gen key. It won't give you the options that we are looking for actually. So provide the key over here, and then you'll have to select the kind of algorithm that you would like to have in this one. We'll choose number 1, and it's asking you that what should be the encryption level. The higher it is, the better and more powerful encryption it is. So I'll go for 4096. Then it's asking you that this thing should be valid for how many days. So you'll have to choose it from here. Either you can choose the number of days, weeks, months, or years. It's highly recommended to choose something over there. So I'll choose it as 30. And then it's asking that it would expire on a certain date. Are you comfortable with that? I'll say yes over here. Now this piece of information is really important because you'll have to keep in mind what you're doing, and you'll have to note down these details, because if you don't have these details right and saved somewhere, you will face big problems in encrypting and decrypting the files. So I'll do it on the receiver end here as well, so that you can keep a note of it, that what we are keeping and what are the details on the other end as well. So it would look something like this. So for sender, as you can see, this is sender and this is receiver. So we'll type the real name as user1, and then we'll type in an email address as user1@test.com, and then we'll leave the comment, and it's saying that if it's okay, press O. So we'll press O from our key, and then it is asking you for a password. Now it's saying that it's an easy password that I'm keeping. We can select it like that, and we'll just have to do some operations so that it would generate a key. Now I would do the same on our receiver end as well. Now as you can see, I have generated a key for both sender and receiver, and you can see the public key over here. It is showing the expiry date of it, and you can see that the key for both boxes is different. So I have selected user1, and the email address is user1@test.com, and here I have selected user2@test.com, and the name is user2 for receiver and user1 for the sender. Now we have all these details over here. We have the public key, we have its user ID shown up here as well, and the subcategory. Now whenever you're working on this, it's really important to check that if you have any keys already generated on this machine. You'll have to check that, because sometimes it happens that if you have any other keys already generated on these boxes, when you'll encrypt it and you'll try to decrypt it, the system won't be able to pick that which key has you used actually in order to generate the messages. So in order to check that, we'll type in a command called gpg, and then we'll do $, and we'll say list keys. And as you can see, we have only one key over here. And on my second box also, as you can see, that there is one key for both of them, and it is shown up here. So now if we would like to list the public keys on our machine, we'll type in a command called list public key or keys and press enter. You'll see that there is only one public key, and we'll try the same on our receiver box. As you can see, on the receiver box also, there is only one key, which is its public key. And if we would try to check the list secret keys, you can see there is only one secret key for this one. And likewise, I have listed the secret keys for our receiver as well. So now we can see that there is only one public key and there is only one private key. Now we'll see that how can we encrypt a message. So in order to encrypt a message, we'll type in nano, and then we'll name the file. For example, if we are making a file for user1, so we'll name it as user1.txt, since it would be a text file. So I'll click on it and I'll put in a message called this is a test file for user1. And then you'll have to press Ctrl O to write the file. So I'll say Ctrl O. It's asking to enter the name of the file. I entered user01.txt, and I'll press enter, so it has saved the file, and then I'll press Ctrl X so that it would close it. Now I need to check that if that file is actually saved in the right directory or not. So for that, I'll pass in a command called ls, and you can see that I have a file over here. And if I would like to open the file and read the contents of it, I'll type in cat user01.txt. So it should show me the text message which is written inside this text file. So now I'll do the same on the receiver end as well. As you can see that the on the receiver end as well, I have created a file which is exactly like I did it for the sender. Now we'll have to encrypt the message which is in user01.txt. So in order to do that, I'll pass in a command gpg and -e for encryption and -r for recipient. And if you remember, we passed in the email address as user01@test.com, and then we'll name the file which we just created, which is 01.txt, and then we'll press enter. Now since now it has saved the file, we don't know that if it is really saved or not. We'll pass ls, and now you can see that there is a third file over here which is 01.txt.jpg. It means that it's an encrypted file. Now if I would try to read this file .gpg, since it's encrypted, we won't be able to read the text inside it since it's an encrypted text now. Now since we have encrypted the file, we don't need this user1 file over here, so we can pass in a command called rm, and then we can type user01.txt. So it would remove it from there, and I'll press ls, so you can see that there is only one encrypted file over here. Now in order to decrypt it and to save it in the same directory with a different name, just to see that if it is able to decrypt it or not, we'll pass in a command called gpg and then -o, and then I'll type the file name as user01-decrypt, and I'll give it an extension name .txt, and then I'll give the name of the file which I would like to decrypt, which is user01.txt.jpg, and it should be able to decrypt the file. As you can see, it's asking for the password that we provided earlier. I'll provide the password, and it would say that it has decrypted the file and it has saved it over there. So I'll press ls, and you can see the file over here which is decrypt, and if you try to open it, you'll be able to see the text in it, which is 01-decrypt.txt. So as you can see, this is a test file from user1. It asked me for a password, and you can see that we deleted the file user1.txt from the directory, and then it recreated a file after decrypting it, and it named it as user01decrypt.txt, and then we opened the file and we saw the same text message which was there in the file when we encrypted it. Now let's start the operation where we can actually see how can you send and receive messages between two partners. So the sender would create a file, it would encrypt it, and then it would send it to the receiver. Receiver would receive it, and then they'll be able to share the keys, and they'll be able to decrypt the files themselves. So that's what we are going to see now. So in order to do that, again, what we have to do is that we'll have to export our keys that we have generated already. So in order to do that, we'll pass in a command called gpg, and then for exporting, we'll type in export and then -a. And you remember the email addresses that we provided for the user number 1 was user1@test.com. So we'll provide that, and then we'll give a name of the file. For example, if we are trying to save the key for user1, and it should be a public key, so we'll name it as user1 public.key, and we'll press enter, and then we'll pass ls, so we can see that the public key has been created for user1 over here. Now we are going to do the same for the receiver as well. Now if you would like to see the public key that we have just generated, so we'll try to open the file. So we'll name it cat, and then we'll say user 01 dot we'll say user 01 public dot key. So you'll be able to see the public key which is generated for user number 1. So in order to check the public key for user number 2, we'll do the same procedure. As you can see, we can even view the key for the receiver, and if you'll scroll it, you can see that these are two different keys which are generated for sender and receiver. Now our next operation is to get these public keys from each other, and we'll have to share it with the partner so that they can import these keys on their computers. So in order to import these keys, we'll have to go to the path where we actually saved the keys. So we'll go to files, and let's open it for both of them. So I'll be going to files, and then I'll go to other locations, and I'll try to go to the root access over here, and I'll right click on it, open as administrator, provide the password for administrator, and then you'll go to root, and you'll be able to see the key over here which is user 01 public key. And we'll do the same on the receiver end. We'll right click on it, we'll go to open as administrator, provide the password, and then go to the root directory, and you will be able to see the user 2 public key. Now as you know that we are in the root directory, we won't be able to directly move the files from here. So what we can do is that we can copy the file from here to we can select it to documents and select it over here. So the key would be copied to your documents over here, which is user 1 public key. We'll do the same for the receiver. We'll copy to, and we'll select the documents from here, and then we can select it so that it is copied over there, and it is there. So user 1 and user 2. Now how would you exchange the keys from the virtual machine, which are these two boxes of Kali? So in order to exchange the keys, what you'll have to do is that you'll have to click on this file and drag it on your host machine desktop. So the file would be copied on your host machine desktop, and then we'll have to do the same thing for our other machine. So once the file is copied, now we can move the files back to this position, since we know that the files are copied to the host machine, and we can then copy them back over here. So if it is there on my host machine, so on my sender, which is user 1, I'll bring in a key of public key for user number 2. So since I am on user 1, which is sender, I'll delete this one from here so that there is no confusion, and we have only one key available on our sender. Now as you can see that user 1, which is sender 1, has the public key of user number 2, which is the receiver, and the receiver has the public key of sender. So if we would like to copy it to the main directory, which is the root folder, so what we can do is we'll copy the file from here, and then we'll go to the location which is our root directory. We'll right click on it and select the password, and we'll go to the root directory, and we will paste it over here. So now you can see that the public key of the receiver is here in the root directory. We are going to do the same for the receiver as well, that we'll copy the file from here, and then we'll go to the location, right click on it, open as administrator, and then provide the password, go to the root directory and paste the password, paste the public key over here. So now the sender has the public key of receiver, and receiver has the public key of the sender. So since we have copied the files, let's see if we can see it over here or not, and let's press 1. So Now we can see that we have the user2 public key, which is the receiver. So receiver's public key is over here, and we can see user1 public key, the sender public key is copied successfully on both computers. So it's just like if you're sending an email out and you're sharing the public keys with the sender and receiver. Instead of doing that, we copied it to the host machine and then we copied it back on the same computer. So the next step is to import this user2, which is the receiver, its public key to the sender. So in order to import that, we'll pass in a command gpg and then we'll type in import, and then we'll type the public key name, which is user in capitals, user02, and then public.key, and then we'll press enter. So it would show you that it has successfully imported the public key. We'll do the same on the receiver end as well. Now, as you can see that the receiver has imported the public key of sender and sender has imported the public key of receiver. Now, as we know from encryption that public key is openly available for everyone. So if we want to share our public keys, we can easily share it, so that if we are sending an encrypted message, the other person should use our public key to make sure that it's a message which is coming from us and there is no doubt about it that who actually sent the file. So now, since we have imported the public keys and we have shared the information, the next step would be to create a file to send it to the other person and encrypt it, just to see that if they can decrypt it or not. So in order to do that, we'll have to create a new file over here, and let's clear the screen so that you can see the command clearly. And we'll type in, for example, nano. We'll create a file, message to user number 2. So the sender is trying to send it to receiver, so we'll name the file as message to user 2, and we'll type in that this is a test message to user 2, and then we'll press Ctrl O and we would save the file and we'll exit it, and then we'll type ls to see that we have the file message to user 2 saved over here. Now we are going to do the same for the receiver end as well. Now this next step is very important because now we are going to encrypt a message for the receiver. So the sender would be encrypting a message for the receiver, and receiver would be encrypting a message for the sender. So when we want to do that, we'll have to pass in a command gpg -e. We are encrypting it, and the recipient would be your partner's email address. So before we wrote it user01 because we were testing it for ourselves if we can decrypt it or not. So since we are sending it to the receiver, so we'll have to use their email address so that only they must be able to read the message. So I'll write user02@test.com, and then I'll use the name of the file, which was message to user02.txt. So now it's showing you all the information that it's going to encrypt a message, and it would have these primary keys and sub keys associated with that. Are you sure you want to encrypt it? I'll say yes, and it has saved the file. Now I'll do the same for the receiver end as well because they'll be encrypting a message for the sender. Now since it's done, let's see ls, and you can see another file over here, message 201, which is encrypted, gpg, and we'll type ls over here and message to user number 1. It means that the receiver would be sending to sender and sender would be exchanging a file with the receiver. Now since we have generated and encrypted the messages, now again we need to share these files with each other. It means that they'll be sending them through email or something. So since we are doing it on a virtual machine, we can go to files and we'll try to copy the files as we did earlier from sender to receiver and receiver to sender. So then we'll try to decrypt the message and to see that what's the actual message. So we'll follow the same procedure. We'll go to the root directory, right click on it, open as administrator, and provide a password for that. And then we'll go to the root directory, and here we'll see a file which says message to user2, which is the receiver.gpg. So we'll copy it to the documents again, and we'll select it, and we'll go to the documents, and it says message to user number 2. We'll repeat the same procedure for the receiver. As you can see, I have copied the messages to the documents. Since we don't need the public key in documents, let's make it clear so that there is no confusion. So I have a message to user number 2. It means that the sender would be sending this file to the receiver, and receiver would be sending this file to the sender. So in order to make it easy, again we'll copy it to the host machine, and then we'll copy them back on the respective folder so that we can exchange the files. So we have exchanged the files. The message to user 1 is with the sender, so it received it, and the message to user 2 has been received by the user on the receiver end. So now we need to move this file message to user, which is an encrypted message, to the root directory. So we'll follow the same procedure, run as administrator, and then go to root, and we'll paste it over here. And we'll repeat the same operation on the receiver's end as well. So as you can see, I have pasted the file message to user 1 on sender and message to user 2 on the receiver end. And now we'll try to check if we have the files on our terminal or not. And we'll be able to see it by passing a command called ls. And you can see that message to user number 2, which is .txt and gpg file, it is received over here. And if we'll check on the receiver end as well, we'll be able to see that the file has been received over here. Now we would like to open the message which is received from the receiver to sender. So in order to open that message, we'll type in gpg -d decrypt, and then we'll name the file, which is message to user1.txt.gpg. It means that it is a file which is received to the sender from receiver, and its name is message to user01, and txt.gpg. We'll press enter. It would ask for your password. You'll provide, and as you can see, the message appears over here that this is a test message for user 01, which was sent by the receiver, and we performed the same operation on the receiver end, so it has decrypted the message for the user number 2. So that was a very simple example on learning encryption and decryption using GPG, which is pretty good privacy. That's it for today. I hope you liked it. Thank you very much.